Afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to the Norisring. Free Practice 2 coming up in less than 5 minutes' time. I'm Chris Hartley to talk you through the action after what was unofficially dubbed qualifying 0.5 earlier on, because that's what Free Practice 1 felt like here at the Norisring. It felt like a qualifying session. There was all guns blazing. The track got quicker and quicker as the session went on. And at least 3 of the championship frontrunners were battling near the sharp end of the field. This is how the point situation looks then, going into this final weekend of the season. Liam Lawson on 206 points has a 14-point lead over Kelvin van der Linde, and a 26-point lead over Maximilian Gotz, a 41-point lead over Marco Wittmann. They're the 4 drivers mathematically who can still win the championship, with 56 points still available. The 3 points you can get from pole position for each of the qualifying sessions over the weekend, plus a maximum of 25 points per race if you take the victory. So great to see the crowds coming in. It's fantastic that we've got this event. It was originally scheduled for the middle of the season. It's a traditional July spot, but it is something unique here at the Norisring. We've been running races around the streets of Nuremberg for over half a century now. 1947, the first time motorsport was run here. The track's changed quite a lot over the years, but it's stayed the same really for 4 decades now, since the early 1970s, and it is a brilliant place to come. You're surrounded, you're in the middle of the town, but you've got the Dutzendijk Park, which is beautiful, which is at the back of the paddock, and it's just everything's unusual about it. The whole atmosphere in the paddock, with these temporary garages that you see built, the narrow pit lane that you have, the Stein Tribune there to the right, this huge 360-metre long grandstands, which will be absolutely packed come the 2 race days that we've got coming up. It really is a special place to come. The media centre is in the Max Morlock Stadium, which is the home to the local football team, and hosted 6 games in the 2006 World Cup, the most impressive of which was the last 16 match between Portugal and the Netherlands. Holds around about 41,000 spectators, I think, in the stadium. But that in part of the stadium is where the media centre is based here. So it has this real unusual feel to it, but it is a wonderful place to come. One of my favourites on the calendar. It's brilliant that we've got to come here. And it really does add an element of intrigue that it becomes the final round of the season, the street circuit, final round of the season. Not too often that happens, if at all, in previous other championships, even certainly not in DTM.
And after that we bleed down to long run, and then we do a 30-lap long run. Okay, copy.
So go for a quick lap, then long runs, and that's something they've got to really try and figure out now. Not about, for some degree, the drivers learning the track earlier on and getting the grip out of the tyres, but now it's about setting up for the race as well, because it's not just about being quick in qualifying, it's about being quick throughout the race and learning what the tyre degradation is like. So where you might have your strategy in mind to come in and change your tyres, how much will the tyres go off? It's a short lap, of course, here at the Norisring, which comprises just 8 corners. It's 2.3 kilometres long. That means a lot of laps in a 55-minute plus 1 lap race. It depends how many, or if there's a safety car, how many safety cars there are, but you could be looking at 70 plus laps of a race here, with them going around in 49.5 seconds earlier on in the first free practice session. So if you were watching earlier on, you will know, or if you caught up with the results, you'll know that our top 3 in the championship all had a pretty good first session here. But if you weren't watching, to update you on the times from this morning's practice session, or early afternoon practice session 1, it was Maximilian Gotz who set the best time of all with a 49.568 in his distinctive pink HRT Mercedes. 75 thousandths of a second, though, was the only advantage he held over Lucas Auer. See Nick Cassidy in the 23 car this weekend, stepping in for Alex Albon, who has been drafted into Formula 1 duties. What will be his last few months as a Red Bull Formula 1 development driver before moving off to Williams to return to a race seat for next year. So shame we didn't get to say goodbye to Alex, but it's been great fun having Alex Albon here.
Session is green.
And he's certainly got a very able replacement, most recently racing in Formula E, Nick Cassidy, but great GT and endurance experience as well as single-seater experience. Made a name for himself racing out in Japan predominantly. He's had great success in Super GT, Japanese Formula 3, amongst other things. very competitive
Okay,
Formula 3 Euro Series racer as well. And there, Liam Lawson then heading out onto the track. He was up there as well today. 4th quickest, so Maximilian Gutz was quickest, Lucas Auer was 2nd, nothing between them. Then about a 10th off their pace was Kelvin van der Linde, 3rd quickest, the driver 2nd in the championship. There he is, number 3. And Liam Lawson was 4th quickest. There was almost nothing between the pair of them, though. It was incredibly close between those two drivers. 30 thousandths of a second.
Okay, press the clutch, it's opening the clutch.
Right, problem for Timo Glock. Not the start to the weekend he wanted after what's been his toughest season so far in DTM, the ex-Formula 1 racer. So for now, the number 16, Rover Racing BMW, stranded and about to be pushed back into the garage. So he misses some crucial time out on track because he is one of the drivers that knows his way around the Norisring. Not everybody can say that. It's in the field this weekend. Nico Muller, very impressive session for him as well. He was quickest out of the box and was fighting in and amongst the top 4 or 5 all the way through the session. Nico 5th quickest in the end in the Team Rosberg Audi. Mike Rockenfeller was 6th, Arjen Mini 7th. Vincent Abril, Daniel Hunkedea and Nick Cassidy rounded out the top 10. The name that's missing, of course, on that top 10 list is the name that you've seen involved at the top or near the top of the championship fight is Marco Wittmann. He was only 18th quickest. So a little bit of a worry, but as the team said, you don't know what's happening in free practice. It's really hard to gauge because you know everybody's using older tyres, but you don't know how old the tyres are. You know, a set of tyres that you ran, you know, if you're a Mike Rockenfeller, for example, and you only put new tyres on for the last few laps of a session, of a race session last time out at Hockenheim, that's a used set of tyres, but they might have only done half a dozen laps. So you've got people
we
with
do a pitward check.
Not that used tyres, some with very used tyres and different fuel loads as well, so it's still hard to gauge. We only really know what the pace is tomorrow in qualifying.
Copy.
On board with Kelvin van der Linde then, and great news coming through in between the 2 practice sessions. If you are a Kelvin van der Linde fan, he's going to be back with us next year in DTM. He has signed the contract already. He's going to be back with Abt Sportsline, back in an Audi and back in the DTM for the 2022 season. So that's confirmed and has been announced. Kelvin van der Linde, first one to sign on the dotted line. Thomas Biermeier's press conference with several of the team bosses earlier on, and Thomas confirmed that, and also confirmed that Abt are going to run at least a 2-car entry next year. T3 Motorsport also confirming they're going to be back next year. They were the last team to sign up this year, but they're going to be one of the first to sign up for next year. So they're going to have at least 2 cars, but they're looking to get a 3rd Lamborghini in as well. And then HRT have said we definitely want to come back. We'd love to have 2 cars. Can't confirm anything yet, but we want to come back. And apparently the reception to DTM back in Italy has been, as Rob Reichardt said, absolutely exceptional. They're loving the DTM and set to continue, hopefully, with that programme and with the Red Bull connection and the junior drivers, Red Bull junior drivers coming in for next season as well. So it does sound positive and hopeful that we're going to have Ferrari back with us next year as well in DTM 2021, and BMW the same as well, with Volkenhorst looking perhaps, if they can, can't announce anything yet, but if they can, they'd ideally like to expand to a 2-car team and keep the driver they've got in Marco Wittmann, who's been exceptional as ever this year. Right, already down into the mid-50s, so not the pace yet that we saw in the first free practice session, but a 50.537. They got down to that pace much quicker than they did in the first session. As you'd expect, really, drivers, cars, teams tuning in to the conditions of the circuit, getting refocused on the track. Nico Muller is on a good lap here, might be about to set the new benchmark time. Kelvin van der Linde is quickest at the moment, but no, he backs off in the 3rd and final sector. There he is, maybe to have a run this time around. So Kelvin's 50.537 remains the best time. He's going to be beaten by himself at the moment. He's absolute best in the 1st and 2nd sectors, although Maximilian Gotz has just gone quicker in sector 1 by a fraction of a second. Nick Cassidy's on a pretty good lap as well. Quite as good though as Kelvin van der Linde. He's a couple of tenths down on Kelvin as it stands over the grid hatching as he goes, and sets the first 49-second lap of the session, 49.926 seconds. We're about 4/10 of a second away from the best time we saw earlier. Cassidy goes 2nd, 50.360. What about Nico Muller? And Mike Rockenfeller up there as well, and Maximilian Gotz. So Gotts goes second with that one, 50.2. Nico Muller a bit quicker though, 50.1, splits them. So it's van der Linde, Muller, Gotts and Cassidy, the top four. Arjun Maini is up there again. He puts a good lap in to get into the top six. Every time somebody crosses the line, they're going quicker. Rockenfeller going second now. And Lawson second. Timo Glock hoping to iron out the problems. Kelvin van der Linde about to put in another quick lap though, 49.78 seconds. 49.791 to be precise. Absolute best in the second and third sectors of the lap. As the Grundig-Kehrer, the first corner, that's classic hairpin. Where it'd be breathe in, hold tight, and hope you don't make contact with another car or the wall on the exit there tomorrow on the first lap of the race. Sergeant Mining is going well. Lucas Auer's gone to the top of the times now with the 49.717. This is like free practice 1, free practice 2. He's qualifying 0.75 as we get set for tomorrow. With this great finale that we've got.
Am Norisring hier, die fängt schon in der letzten Ecke an, mit guten Ausgriff bekommen. Hier auf das Ziel, fährt die Kürzungslinie hier so nah wie möglich an der Mauer, versucht ein bisschen Richard mitzunehmen, kommt auf Turn 1, circa mit 255 km/h an der Handbremse. Jetzt haben wir den Lampenweg, versuchen von außen einzulenken. Scheitelpunkt treffen, früh ans Gas gehen, dann ruhig aufs Asphalt, hilft dir ein bisschen verkürzen auf den Bauern, rausbeschleunigen. Zweiter, dritter Gang, kurz hoch, vierten Gang. Schneller ist Handbremsen, schwierig über die Bodenwellen, viel ABS. Versuchen so nah wie möglich hier die Leitplanken ran umsetzen, früh ans Gas gehen, also Schwung mitnehmen. Nah an die Mauer wieder ran, aber schneller ist raus, also Geschwindigkeit mitnehmen. Zum Nutzzeichen auch hier wieder aus, versuchen gerade zu schnell beim Anbremsen über die Bodenwellen. Also viel ABS aktiv, dann wieder umlenken. Traktion am Boden bekommen, raus, mit Nutzzeichen. Betriebsschwimmer Start Ziel und das war eine Runde am Norisring.
So there, Timo Glock talking around a lap of the Norisring here. The main thing he was pointing out there were the bumps in the circuit and how keen you have to be to get on the throttle, get the traction coming down on the slow corners there into either side of the circuit. The Grundig-Kehrer at the start of the lap. They've got some tight curve at the end of the lap, which is absolutely critical, that final hairpin, because you've got a left-hand kink after it, but really you're flat out then all the way until you get to turn 1, a long straight over the start-finish line. That's on Abril, meanwhile. That's gone into 5th place. Got the top 4 now into the 49s. Auer, van der Linde, Lawson and Muller. There's nearly half a second between those 4 drivers. Lucas Auer only 47 thousandths quicker than Kelvin van der Linde, but the pair of them are a quarter of a second up on anybody else. You're on board with Liam Lawson now. Looks even closer to the wall, doesn't it, when you're on board and when you get the exterior shots. He filtering his way through the Schorler S now. Good start to the lap, 18.37 through the first sector. Lucas Auer is quickest of all through the first sector with an 18.335, so he's almost matched that Liam Lawson. 15.1 through the second sector is the best, 15.2, so he's about just over a tenth of a second down on the absolute best lap so far, but bearing in mind Auer was quickest in sector 1, van der Linde in sector 2, so nobody's hooked together the absolute perfect lap yet. It's going to be close. Liam Lawson goes 3rd, and that puts him down into the mid-49s now, 49.617 seconds. Sophia Florsch looking to improve upon her best lap of session 1, which was a 50.3. We were top 10 for a while in the first half of the session. She's in the top 10 now, 8th place, and quicker than earlier, 50.055. First experience for her racing on a street circuit. She's raced at Macau a couple of times, of course, in Formula 3 in single-seaters, but first experience racing at the Norisring, but a relatively local driver as well from Munich, as Nico Muller puts in another good lap, 4th place, 49.667. Stays where he is in the order, but puts a slightly better lap in than he'd had before. And if those fans are in that grandstand tomorrow, they're going to have all the action, I reckon. Weather very good, set fair at the moment, 16 degrees the air temperature, track temperature up on what it was in session 1 now, it's just over 19 degrees. Marco Wittmann then, where is the pace of this car? Where are the BMWs? They were all in the second half of the order in free practice 1, fighting the car coming out of the turns. It's the biggest, widest, heaviest car. Esteban Mutu was revelling the opportunity to come a race here at the Norisring. Certainly acquitted himself well in the first free practice session, and he's 11th at the moment with a 50.330 is his best lap. It's a tiny bit slower than he went in free practice 1. But it's all guns blazing here in this second free practice session on the DTM Norisring, powered by BWT, Best Water Technology, who are title sponsors of the event. And coming through the shop there, you see Liam Lawson about to start another lap. Timo Glock about to come to the conclusion of his lap. Should be his best lap of the session. This is already in the top 10 despite the late start, and stays 10th. Lost a bit of time at the end of the lap there, backed off out of it. 50.352 in the end. Best laps of 53.07, so it's pretty close to it. But not quite there at the end of the lap. Sheldon van der Linde looking to improve, but he's 3/10 down through the first sector. Marco Wittmann's gone 12th, which in the context of where he has been in qualifying and practice sessions since Hockenheim, he's a bit better, but not where he wants to be, of course. There's a glut of drivers in the 50.3s and 50.4s, and he's in amongst that group. And Sheldon van der Linde puts himself into the top 10 for now. Best of the BMWs, just ahead of his teammate Timo Glock. Marco Wittmann goes through. Personal best in the middle sector, but down in 14th place overall now. There he is in the number 11 machine, the 2014-2016 champion. Also counts this as his home circuit, Marco Wittmann. Been such a competitive season this year. 7 different race winners, 11 different drivers have been on the podium. And it's been an eclectic field as well, not just in terms of the cars and the brands, because we've had 6 different brands, 5 of which have been on the podium this year, with McLaren, Lamborghini, BMW, Audi, Mercedes, Ferrari, of course, all in the mix this year. But Nick Cassidy has become the 30th different driver of the championship, which is, we've had lots of guest drivers dipping in and out of the championship. A couple of replacement drivers here and there as well. But the first season has been hugely successful, hugely competitive. Let's get back on board with Marco Wittmann. Few in the pits now, including Kelvin van der Linde, who's still second in the times. Vincent Ambrose, Sophia Forge, Mike Rockenfeller, Esteban Luke, Lucas de Grassi and Daniel Hungadea all in the pits. In fact, Daniel's not set a lap time yet, which is perhaps a bit of a worry in the Grubber M Mercedes. So Daniel Hungadea, no time yet. He's been out on the track, but very, very slowly, then came straight back in. Philip Ellis, a couple of tenths down on the absolute best first sector time, but might be about to improve his own position and lap time here. He's quicker through that first sector than Marco Wittmann, but Marco gets a tenth back on him through the middle sector. And there is Nick Cassidy, who's already in 6th position in the AlphaTauri-backed AF Corsa Ferrari, still in 7th place, now behind Philip Ellis, who puts in 49.9. So Philip Ellis has found a bit of pace over what he had earlier on today in that first session. Only a bit, half a tenth or so, but it's enough to get him 6th there, as he was out of the top 10 in the first session today, back in 11th place. And good to see Esme Hawkey's back on track, because we've got a shot of her and a replay of her clipping the wall on the exit to the hairpins with the back right corner hitting the wall and getting suspension damage about 10 minutes from the end of the session. So T3 Motorsport have done well. They've got the car repaired. Back out as a teammate, Esteban Moot, second car, the 19-year-old Belgian sensation who's looking to finish second in the junior standings this weekend. The junior standings new to DTM this year, for the younger drivers in the field, having already long since been wrapped up by you-know-who, Liam Lawson, who's a long, long way clear in those particular standings. But there still will be a fight for second place in those standings, and it is also worth also bearing in mind that we've got the Teams Championship still to be decided as well. Mercedes having already wrapped up the Manufacturers Championship, but it's going to be a fight between Audi and Ferrari for second place in the manufacturer standings. They're pretty closely matched in terms of points, and for second place in the junior standings as well. We're also going to have a battle going into this final weekend of the season. Liam Lawson's got 192 points, Sheldon van der Linde's got 50, second at the moment, Esteban Moot on 41, third. Van der Linde second, Lawson third. They were third and fourth in the earlier session, so they are up there. Maximilian Gott's not quite as high up as he was, hasn't replicated the time that he set this morning, but again, we don't know what he's doing with the setup of the car. Is he going for longer runs, trying some things out? He knows he's got the ultimate one-lap pace. But that time has been bettered now. Lucas Auer fractionally quicker than the fastest time from free practice 1. Best time so far this weekend, 49.485. And before he came into pits, has gone through and he's put in another slightly quicker lap. There he goes. Lukey going through, shot on the 22 Mercedes. Saves another few thousandths of a second off, 49.425. Absolute best in the first sector, personal best in sectors 2 and 3. Philip Ellis up to 4th. His teammate, so the Winwood Mercedes are now 1st and 4th. A couple of tenths of a second between them. Nick Cassidy just put his best lap of the session in as well, but stays in 6th place with a 49.845. There he is, coming through your shot, chased by Philip Ellis in the Mercedes. Lucas Auer just in front of this pair as they make their way through the right left of the Scholler S. Marco Wittmann just behind them has gone into the top 10. Bit of progress, 50.093 seconds. So fractionally better. Good first sector for Nick Cassidy. Lucas Auer is quickest in sector 1 with an 18.3. He's about a tenth down on that. Kelvin van der Linde, 15.1 is the best second sector time. And Lawson is quickest in the 3rd sector with a 15.834. So it's a decent lap again from Nick Cassidy. I'll be pleased about that, pleased about the fact that he can get several laps out of this Ferrari. All consistent, all very quick. Dev Gore's just improved to 17th, 50.361. We've now got half a dozen drivers in the 50.3s. 18 cars split by less than a second. And still awaiting the appearance of Daniel Hankadeu, who says he's got to have a problem with the car. So look, see Arjun Miney going to 7th place, looking like a longer run here for Philip Ellis potentially. If we get to a tie in the championship, it goes on countback of most number of race wins. Now at the moment, Kelvin van der Linde has got 4 wins and Liam Lawson has got 3 wins. If they tie on race wins, however, it then goes back to who's got the most second place finishes. And this is where it could start to swing the way of Liam Lawson, because he has had 4 second place finishes this year. 2 at the Lausitzring, 1 at Assen, 1 at Hockenheim. Kelvin van der Linde, believe it or not, has never finished second this year. Well, never finished second in DTM. It's his first year of DTM. He's been on the top step of the podium. He's been 3rd once, but he's not finished second at all. So if they tied on points and race wins, Liam Lawson has got the advantage in terms of he cannot now be bettered in terms of the most number of second place finishes he's got. Stranger things have happened in championships. 14 points is all that splits them. Are we going to see somebody outside of the championship fight though, pushing for podiums and wins? And maybe this young man, Arjun Miney, the 23-year-old, looking good again. He's already into the top 6. He might be about to improve further still. Personal best in sectors 1 and 2. He sprints for the line, takes the Get Speed Mercedes over the white mark, and it's a good lap, but he stays 6th with that. Still his best lap of the session though, 49.684. So 2 very consecutive quick lap times there from Arjun. And Maximilian Gotz is on the march now. Best lap, but he's not flown yet, so that only puts him in 10th place. He was briefly 9th, but Mike Rockenfeller is fractionally quicker, goes 9th, but Maximilian got 0.6 of a second off the pace at the moment. But remember, he was quickest in the first session, and he's capable of going half a second quicker than he is at the moment. Lawson back out there, he's in the 49s again as well, so he's got used to the circuit, I think it's fair to say. Kelvin van der Linde is on a good lap, absolute best in the middle sector. Squeezing as close as he dares through that left-hand kick to the wall. Over the line goes the Abt Audi, and that's a 49.56. That's another very good lap time. It's not quite his best, and it's not quite as good as Lucas Auer, who's at the top of the times with that 49.4. But again, it's promising, isn't it, where you can know you've got the car underneath you, you're able to get several quick lap times in. Maximilian Buch returning to the championship, having had to sit out the last one at Hockenheim, replaced very ably by Marvin Deans to get the car into the points. The car originally scheduled for most of the season at least to be driven by 2-time champion Gary Paffett, but for Formula E commitments initially, and then because of travel restrictions after that, Gary opting to sit out, well, forced really to sit out the championship. But it'd be great if we will get Gary Paffett back in DTM next year. Looks like a very, very promising year. Feedback from the teams this first season has been excellent, and the team principals and the press conference also saying that what has been a really good feature this year is how closely the teams have all worked together. And for many months now, they've been also talking about 2022 as a working group and how things can change and improve. Thomas Biermeyer joking that maybe pit stops might be top of the list in terms of things that he would like to see improved. Ollie Fritz from Mercedes saying, no, we're quite happy with the pit stops at the moment. But it's a well-known fact about Audi not having quite a system with locking wheel nuts that the Ferrari and the Mercedes are able to have slightly quicker pit stops, which make a big difference. So they'll be looking for some more parity there. It's been a topic of discussion all year long, really. Max Scott's quicker time into the 49s now, 49.8, 8th place overall. Lucas Di Grassi into the top 10 as well, 49.969. Somebody's been racing with Nick Cassidy in Formula E in recent times. As we watch now, Kelvin van der Linde pushing on this lap. Quickest driver out there at the moment is Lucas Di Grassi, the only one in the 49s currently with a 49.9, as we see some longer run pace now with 23 minutes to go in this session. I did a little bit of working out as well in terms of which drivers have gained most places this year in terms of going on the attack and gaining positions from your grid position. Not counting if you drop backwards or stay where you were, but those races where you gained places from your grid. And I don't think you'd be entirely surprised to find out that the driver who has gained the most places from grid positions this year with 48 is Mike Rockenfeller. A few of those in recent times as well. Lucas Auer's up there as well though, 42 places gained over the course of the season from grid positions. Nico Muller third on 40. Sure sign that the race pace is there, but the qualifying pace has not been, as Maximilian Götz goes 5th now, 49.656. That's only 0.03 of a second behind Philip Ellis. Mercedes, Audi, Ferrari, the top three as it stands. The only time, that was on the limit, wasn't it? On the absolute ragged edge there on the exit to the turn from Maximilian Götz. Talk about breathe in and hold your breath, wait for the clatter of metal against stone wall, but it never happened. I think you found the limit, Max, certainly at that part of the course. So you got Philip Ellis 4th, 49.653. Max got into the pits now 5th, 49.656. Nico Muller, 49.667. Arjun Maini, 49.684. So 31 thousandths of a second between those four drivers, Ellis, Götz, Muller and Maini, who are 4th, 5th, 6th and 7th as it stands. Liam Lawson, 49.43. Best lap of the session for him. Puts him to within 9 thousandths of a second of Lucas Auer. So this just confirms, doesn't it, that certainly the Mercedes, the Ferrari, the Audi are all up there, pretty close on each other to pace, certainly today on all the tyres. BMWs, unfortunately, seem to be off at the moment, but we'll only know for sure once we get to qualifying tomorrow. At the moment, BMW's 13th, 14th and 15th, and more than half a second off the pace for Marco Wittmann, which doesn't sound a lot until you consider the lap time's only 49.5 seconds, and then it does seem a lot. It's a lot anyway in DTM, it's so close in the championship. But it's going to be especially so here. It's going to be such a critical qualifying session, not just because of the championship scenario, but because of how evenly matched they all are. You make a fraction of a mistake on one corner, one turning point, one braking zone, and you lose, say, 0.2 of a second. Well, that's going to cost you 4 or 5 places on the grid. Looking at this, look at how close it is. We've got 0.8 of a second between the top 18. Still no sign of Daniel Hunkedaer, so looks like he's going to miss potentially most of, if not all of, a second free practice session at the DTM Norisring, powered by BWT, with Liam Lawson still out on track. It's a fairly busy track at the moment, 2/3 full, not too many cars in the pits currently. Esteban Moot improving in the T3 Motorsport Lamborghini up to 15th place. 50.193 seconds. It's a relatively small team, T3 Motorsport, team from Dresden. They were the last to sign up for the championships. They didn't do any of the pre-season tests. As we go on board with Maximilian Götz. But Jens Voigt was in the press conference earlier saying the fact that we were late in gave us time to sort of start planning early for next year. which is the plan to bring 2, maybe 3 cars into the championship next year. And back-to-back weekends, of course, means it's been a really busy period for the teams. And of the 5 team bosses that were in the press conference earlier on, only one said, yeah, we actually did make it back to the factory, and that was the local team, APT. Thomas Biermeyer, CEO of the team, said, yeah, we did get back to Kempton and get to work on the cars. It did make some sense to be able to do that. But all of the other teams, it wasn't worth it. Certainly AF Corsa couldn't have gone back to Italy and come all the way back here, so they just came straight to Hockenheim. For HRT, Willie Fritz saying, it just didn't make sense to go back to the Eiffel and then drive all the way over here. So that's another team that has come straight back as well from one circuit to the next, which puts a certain amount of pressure onto the teams. For Volkenbus, actually, they got in touch with a local BMW dealership near Hockenheim and used that as a base. They stayed up near Hockenheim for a couple of days, used the BMW car dealership as a base to get the cars repaired and prepped ready for the Norisring, and then drove down here. It's been very wet apparently for a few days, but beautiful weather here today. We've all arrived for these free practice sessions. Ellis and Lawson both on good laps. 49.49 for Liam Lawson. So second quickest time, but that's very close to his absolute best. And Philip Ellis with a 49.713, which is within a tenth of his best as well. Philip didn't quite have the pace in the car, certainly in qualifying. He had a brake issue in qualifying 1 at Hockenheim. But wasn't quite there, where he made some mega starts again, as he always does, Philip. But he could be a threat this weekend as well. One of the race winners, one of the 7 different race winners we've had so far this year. Lucas de Gracia last raced at the Norisring when he was in the Audi TT Cup. He was racing with Cetus here as well. So he's looking forward to the return here. Second weekend of DTM, former re-champion. Another good lap from Liam, 49.74. Well, star turn it has been. Ron Reichart was asked about Liam Lawson and his impressions. He said, well, the very first time he got in the car, the very first test, he got in, he got out, and we could not believe how quick he was straight away. Never driven anything like this Ferrari before. And, he wasn't relaxed at all. He was straight away saying, right, what can I do to improve? Where can I improve? I looked at the data, said, right, a little bit of time here, find a bit of time there. He went out and he did it straight away. So he absorbed the information straight away, got on it. Arjun Miney, 4th quickest now, 49.651. That is 0.05 of a second between Miney, Ellis and Gotts, who you're on board with now. They were 4th, 5th and 6th in the session. Right, on board with Max. It's about 2 tenths down through the first sector as it stands. His best time, 6th. He's only 2 tenths of a second away. He's only about a tenth slower than he was in free practice 1, where he was at the top of the times earlier on the track. The speeds are all that little bit quicker this time, not much quicker, but about a tenth quicker all around than it was earlier. Daniel Hunkedaer is out. Great news. He's got out for the session and he's already gone into the top 10. He's got 8th quickest. So 49.768 is somebody else who could be one to watch here this weekend. Performance for the Hong Kong-based team has been on the upward trajectory since race 2 at Spielberg, and he's on another flying lap here, Daniel Hunkedaer. Released, but Liam Lawson to the top of the times, 49.37 for Liam. First driver into the 49.3s. He's banged in, 4 really quick lap times consecutively. Daniel goes into 7th place. Danny with a 49.659. He joins the 49.6 club. In the club at the moment, Miney, Ellis, Gutz, Hunkedaer and Muller, all of them in 49.6s, and all of them separated by 16 thousandths of a second. It's ridiculous, isn't it? 16 thousandths of a second covering 5 drivers. But Lawson has the edge, and it is just an edge, but it's the edge. That's all you need here. Remember, it's up to everybody else to outscore Liam. He's the one at the top of the tree in terms of points. So certainly at the moment, he doesn't need to go out there and try and win every race, be top of the times in every session. Of course, that's what he wants to do, but it's up to the others to do that. He's got the advantage, 14-point head start, which he's created over certainly the last few weeks. Ferrari, top of the times, 49.375, exactly half a tenth up on the Mercedes of Lucas Hauer. and 87 thousandths of a second quicker than Kelvin van der Linde. So it's split by 30 thousandths in the first session. They're split by 87 thousandths of a second in this session. And Liam Lawson on a pretty good lap here by the looks of things. 18.4 and 15.3 through the first two sectors. Comes out of Dutsendijk Curve, which is named after the local park, which is forming part of the paddock. Beautiful lake in the middle of that as well. A summer's day, great. See all the families out rowing on the lake. Really is a beautiful backdrop for a street race. And again, quick lap that, 49.625. Bearing in mind he's already squeezed 6 to 7 laps out of those tyres. That lap in itself would have been good enough to put him fourth quickest, which is now the position held by Daniel Hunkerdale. So Daniel, 49.634, goes fourth quickest. I've had to wait for a while, but it's been worth the wait. Flashing the lights, get out of the way, he says to Marco Wittmann. I'm on your tail, I'm coming through. I'm on a bit of a charge here. Meanwhile, Marco Wittmann, who was briefly in the top 10, he's now down into 15th place. Esme Hawkey's been in the pits for a while as well. And she has managed to get 21 laps in. Some of them have pushed on. In fact, Liam Lawson's done the most laps here of anybody. He's done 31 laps. Hunkerdale the least, of course, because he didn't go out until late. He's got 12 laps in now. Not all of them flying laps, has to be said. But of late, he's been flying along, that's for sure. Muller goes through the shot. Hunkerdale next up. Nico Muller 8th at the moment with a 49.667. Sort of matched his pace of free practice one, but not found any more speed as yet. And there, the barriers and the walls await. And a new addition to the Norisring this year is these autumnal leaves falling off the trees, which we've not had before, because we're normally here a few months earlier in the season. And they're the paving. If you run wide over that, you've got to be oh so careful. It can be slippy. It's a real change of grip level on the exit to the turns. Personal best through the first sector, almost matching the absolute best through there. 10th down in the middle sector. But Hunkerdale could get himself into the top 3 if he has a good run out of this final corner. Over the line he goes. Not quite fourth, 49.55. Best lap he's done so far, though. And now you've got 92 thousandths of a second between the top... between third and fourth, between van der Linde and Hunkerdale. 97 thousandths ahead of Miney. Miney's only 2 thousandths ahead of Ellis. Ellis is only 3 thousandths of a second ahead of Gotts. And Gotts is only 11 thousandths of a second clear of Muller. So you get the picture. Tiny, tiny margins. Especially here at the Norisring. It's accentuated, really, with these walls. You've got to get as close to them as you dare to be quick. But if you just go that little bit too far, you're in trouble. The car could be damaged, could be out of the race. You can't get away with it with the square on here. You can lose a wing mirror, you carry on, or you can also have serious damage to the suspension. So, good cameo appearance that from Danny, who goes fourth quickest. Maximilian Buch has just improved to 15th, 50.077. Liam Lawson still busy out on track. Lapped Audi ahead of him, which must be Rockenfeller, because van der Linde is in the pits currently. What could go wrong? Mike Rockenfeller and Liam Lawson trying to share the same piece of tarmac. This is not a sight he will want to see in any other races this weekend. Liam Lawson, the back of a Mike Rockenfeller Audi. 15 years as a works driver with Audi, about to come to an end after this weekend for Rocky. It'll be a sad loss to DTM if we don't see him back here next year. There's still lots of racing to come from Mike. A couple of comings together, Lawson and Rockenfeller this year. And Liam was not happy at all with Mike at the end of the previous race weekend at Hockenheim when they came together in that first race. And they, final few corners of the lap, switch around for third place. Loss of a trophy for Lawson, but also a loss of 3 championship points. And when you've seen how close it is, you know how important those just few points can be. Liam Lawson trying to win the Drivers' Championship, also trying to help AF Corsa to win the Teams' Championship if he can this weekend. AF Corsa are on 310 points, Abt are on 267, so it's 43 points between them. You count your top 2 cars in each qualifying and race session, so you can score 43 points from a race, which is the exact gap between them. If you get a first and a second, you can score 6 points, score 5 points from qualifying as well, potentially. So 43 points 98 points still available in the team's championship. That's still to fight for. Team Windward are just about in there, mathematically still with a chance. They're 93 points adrift, third in the championship, with 98 points still available. But they've closed the gap because after Q1 there's only going to be 92 points still available. That's on Abril, 49.725, puts himself into the top 10, 9th place. And Cassidy just behind him, 49.792 in 10th position. And there is Nick, building up speed to have another crack at this by the look of it. So Lawson into the pits, having set half a dozen or so very quick lap times, including the fastest lap of the weekend so far, 49.375 seconds, which puts him a whole 87 thousandths of a second quicker than his big rival for the weekend, Kelvin van der Linde, who's third with Lucas Auer. And this is becoming a pattern, splitting the championship contenders of late. Form for Lucas has been pretty stunning of late, picking up his 6th and 7th DTM career victories in the space of a couple of weekends of each other. So there, Ferrari being pursued by Lamborghini, because Esme Hawkey in the background of the shot has gone back out onto the track as well. So it's exactly 1 second covering the whole lot of them. Esme Hawkey is 20th at the moment, 1.000 seconds adrift in the best time of the session. So 1 second on a lap makes the difference between being first or last in the session. And Esme maybe looking to improve as well. We could have them all within a second of each other if the British driver and reigning Pro-Am class champion in Porsche Carrera Cup GB is able to find a tiny bit more time, 50.375 seconds. Remember, she missed the back end of the first session. 50.8 was the best, so she's found half a second between the two sessions, which is an awful lot of time to find. Impressive stuff, that. A couple of comings together in the last 2 weekends with Sophia Florsch, which resulted in Sophia getting into retirement in the last weekend at Hockenheim. Race 2, Esme was able to carry on, but with some damage. They came together at Aston as well, but both of them were able to finish, and because there was such a high rate of retirements in that race, they both got into the points despite the fact they got cars which were... Well, I think Esme's car was okay, but she had that trip through the gravel, which lost her an awful lot of time. Sophia's car was definitely a bit second-hand, but got to get to the finish, and both managed to score their first championship points, both of course in their first season of DTM. Sophia Florsch, she said, it's gone so quickly this year. Can't believe it's the final round already. I guess it's because it's been so back-end heavy as well. We've had 3 out of the last 4 weekends for DTM races, so it's come quickly, this final round. She's going back on board with Maximilian Gotz, who's in 7th place at the moment, trying to find just under 0.3 of a second in the BWT backed car. Hubert Hout's HRT squad. 18.47 is a personal best for Philip Ellis through the first sector. Rockenfeller's just improved, but only up to 13th place, not yet got back into the 49s, still in the 50s. 6.5 minutes just under on the clock. 49.676 for Philip Ellis, within a fraction of his best lap time. He's looking pretty strong here today. Philip, German-born Swiss driver, accelerating out of the hairpin. And one of the things that we saw at Hockenheim with the hairpin there and a couple of slower corners was that tyre degradation showed up more at Hockenheim than it had anywhere else. And one theory for that was because the older tyres, you know, you need traction coming out of the slow corners, and you've got 2 hairpins here. So I wonder if it might be the case, as Max Gotz goes 5th, it might be the case that the tyre degradation is relatively high here as well. It's a medium compound tyre from Michelin, designed deliberately to have some tyre degradation in terms of bringing strategies in, but it doesn't drop off massively. We've seen drivers that are able to go almost the whole race on one set of tyres, only coming in because they have to come in and make a mandatory stop without losing that much speed. A couple of tenths here or there. It's definitely a bigger gap between older tyres and newer tyres, as Mike Rockenfeller so ably demonstrated at Hockenheim, where he came charging through on fresh tyres for the last 15 minutes of the race. So there's Gotz going over the line. That lap is a 49.564, which is his best so far. But he stays in 6th position. The quickest driver on track is Daniel Unkadeo, just on a 49.466. So he improves his time, but not his position. Both of them do. Both of the pink Mercedes getting quicker, and we've got Mike Rockenfeller up into 11th. Philip Ellis up into 5th now, the 49.55. That's 2 very quick lap times back-to-back he's put in. Flash of the headlights to back off there. Was that Muller coming through? Vincent Abrelabet to lead the pits. Sergeant Miney goes over the line and goes 7th, 49.59. What about Max Gutz? Waiting for him to come through. 4th at the moment. Back to cross the line now, and the time slower, 49.71. Still decent though. Nico Muller goes 5th. Over the line he goes, so mini qualifying tryout run now. Qualifying type runs at the start of the session, then longer runs. And now we're going back to sort of qualifying type trim, because that's the next time you'll see the cars. They go out for qualifying at 10 o'clock local time tomorrow morning. Hunkadea looking good ever since he got the car out. Whatever they did has worked. Been flying. There he is, the Spaniard, ex-Formula 3 Euro Series champion. DTM race winner with 3 3/4 minutes left on the clock. On board with Sophia Florsch, one of the 4 Amp Sportsline Audis in action this weekend. She's improved her times over session 1 as well. Going to get into the 49s, not on this lap she won't, but not far off, 50.04. Really good final sector actually. So it's Lawson, Auer, Ferrari, Mercedes. 3rd, Kelvin van der Linde in the Audi. Daniel Hunkadea in 4th, Mercedes. Nico Muller, Audi 5th. Philip Ellis, Mercedes 6th. Max Gutz, Mercedes 7th. Arjun Mining, Mercedes 8th. Vincent Abril, Mercedes 9th. Nick Cassidy, Ferrari in 10th. BMW's all out of the top 10. Lamborghini's both out of the top 10 as well, as it stands. So, except for Liam Lawson, it's Mercedes and Audi who are dominating the times so far in certainly this second session of the weekend. Not for qualifying, but for the race, remember, we'll have to consider success ballast. Top 3 from race 2 at Hockenheim will carry ballast. Lucas Auer is going to have a heavier car, 25 kilograms on board him. Liam Lawson, and this is worth bearing in mind, of 18 kilograms on the Ferrari, because he finished 2nd in race 2 at Hockenheim. And 18 kilograms, trying to accelerate that out of the hairpins, is surely going to have an effect as well. So he needs to get as high up the order as he can for that reason as well. And Max Gutz is going to have 15 kilograms of success ballast on board his car. Liam Lawson had a terrible second race, but the one plus side is that he gets a success ballast free Audi to run in race 1 here as Arjun Mining goes 2nd and Max Gutz goes 3rd quickest. 2 minutes to go. Sophia Florsch trying to get into the 49s now in her first day competing here at the Norisring at the end of her first season of DTM. Can she just find that fraction of a second? She's about to head over the line in the Schaffler-back car. Goes through, yes, 49.91. Gets into the 49s now. So that's 14 of the cars in the 49s. Wait till they put the new tyres on tomorrow. 48's no problem, I reckon. All things being equal with the weather. Liam Lawson's come into the pits with 1.5 minutes left on the clock then. He's still got the fastest time of the session, 49.375 seconds, but he's only 30 thousandths of a second quicker than Arjun Mining, who's 2nd, and only 37 thousandths of a second quicker than Maximilian Gotz, who's 3rd. You've got Lucas Auer 4th, exactly half a tenth off. Kelvin van der Linde in 5th, 87 thousandths of a second adrift. And then Daniel Hunkadea in 6th place, 91 thousandths of a second adrift. So it's less than 1/10 of a second between the top 6 cars in the session. With that lap, by the way, Sophia Florsch into the 49s now, moved up to 13th place. In between 2 very experienced drivers. Mike Rockenfeller is just ahead of her and Timo Glock is just behind her near the times. Got with another quick lap, 49.47 seconds. He's there on the pace, that's for sure. Looking good for Max, but he, in his heart of hearts, knows really could do with a race win this weekend. And that might just give him a fighting chance. He needs the others to struggle a bit. But as I say, he's got some success ballast to worry about as well. Sophia goes even better than she got before in the first sector as well. 18.47 seconds. That's only 1/10 of a second off the absolute best first sector time. So really getting into the groove now. Arjun Mining again, 49.4 for him. He's getting better and better, isn't he? Looking really sharp in qualifying of late. Another top 3 for him in terms of the pace that he had at Hockenheim last weekend. And looks like he could threaten again here this weekend for a top 3. Sophia Florsch with a 49.8 this time. So stays 13th. Well, that's her best lap of the session so far. And that's a real big step forward in terms of times. Half a second quicker for her as the flag comes out than she went this afternoon in free practice 1. So flag out, Kelvin van der Linde at the moment in 5th place, 5th, but only 87 thousandths of a second adrift. That's the sights he won't want to see either too much tomorrow, the back of another car. Sesame Hawkey and the rocket back Lamborghini just in front. And they've got a clear road ahead of him, try and get another race victory or two to really put the pressure on Liam Lawson. I think maybe his third sector has been a little bit compromised there as he comes out and over the line, and the lap time he has a 50.026. So it loses out the chance to improve, but he's thereabouts. The Audi is not far off. He was up there this morning in 3rd, and he's there this time in 5th place. He was fractionally ahead of Lawson in free practice 1. He's a little bit behind him in free practice 2. And Gotts cannot be discounted either. Maximilian Gotts 1st and 3rd. So the championship leader, Liam Lawson, ends the day quickest of all, 49.375 seconds, 30 thousandths quicker than the Flying Argent Miney. Maximilian Gotts was 1st and 3rd in the 2 sessions today. Lucas Auer is up there again, 4th. Kelvin van der Linde is going to be in the fight, no doubt about it. 3rd and 5th in the 2 sessions today. Ankerdale was late on parade, but finished in 6th, with Philip Ellis, Nico Muller, Vincent Abril and Nick Cassidy all coming home in the top 10. That's it then for today, but we look forward to qualifying 1 coming up tomorrow, and of course the first race of the weekend. The qualifying session tomorrow here, starting at 10 o'clock local time, will be on air. Before that, of course, though, to bring you all of the build-up to what is going to be a fascinating final 2 days of the DTM season. So that's it from the DTM Norisring, powered by BWT. From me, Chris Hartley, and the team, thanks for watching. We'll speak to you again and see you again tomorrow. Bye for now.